Good afternoon, everyone. I am Anushri Sharma, Assistant News Editor at ETHRWorld, and it is my great privilege to have you all here today in this exclusive closed round leadership discussion on breaking bias to make work equitable for women. A roundtable discussion on the occasion of International Women's Day 2022. This roundtable is brought to you by ETHRWorld International, Asia HRM, and Asia HR Women Club. We're extremely excited to have you joining us and look forward to a great session and hope in these 2 hours we aim to find solutions to uncover, untangle, and understand the challenges of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So now without any further ado, let me invite Yasmin Taj, who is the editor ETHR World International, to kickstart the session.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anushri. And a very, very warm welcome to all our leaders today. I want to extend my gratitude to each one of you for joining us in this session and coming together to solve a very pertinent challenge that each one of us is striving to solve in today's times. Before we kickstart this session, I would now like to invite everyone to quickly introduce yourself. You may share your name, designation, organization, and maybe one key expectation that you have from today's discussion and session today. And I would like to go with people that I see first on my screen, and I'd like to invite Jaisli first to invite. Please introduce yourself, Jaisli.
Hi, thank you, Yasmin. Thanks for having me. It is my honor to be here, and I hope that apart from my sharing, I also want to learn from all the participants here. What is the key takeaway and things that I can learn and apply in my organizations? Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you, Jaisli. Thank you so much. Next up on my screen, I can see Fiona. Fiona, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thanks, Yasmin. Hello, everybody. I'm Fiona, and I'm with DHL Express based in Singapore. I'm the Senior Director in Telemanagement, taking care of Asia Pacific, excluding China. So it's also a great pleasure to be here, be amidst of all the leaders here. And my expectation today is, as I'm going to share some best practice, I'm also here to learn from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Fiona. Thanks for sharing that. Next up on my screen, I can see Noor Hamija. Would you like to go next?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope everyone is good well. Okay, my name is Noor Hamija. I'm actually working with Telecom Malaysia for about 26 years. I'm actually here. It's actually wanted to hear from others and not representing as a Telecom Malaysia as a company. It's actually my own view. And, it's also getting leveraging on others to, share their experience and knowledge. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Noor Hamija. Next up, Helen, would you like to go next? Helen.
Hello, this is Helen. I'm the Professional Hire Director for Asia Pacific of British Petroleum. For this session that I would like to share and learn from the others, and also that the D&I topic is quite popular in these recent years. So I just would like to starting from ourselves, from our community, and cultivate the culture across us. Thanks.
Absolutely great. Thank you. Thank you, Helen. Next up, I have Vince on my screen. Vince, if you introduce yourself, please.
Good afternoon from the Philippines. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm really very glad I was invited. Thank you, Rita, and for everyone, for the warm welcome. And I am currently the HR manager for FCF Minerals Corporation. It's a mining company. It's actually a London-based company, a publicly listed company in London, but is operating in the Philippines. Now, I'm happy to share if I will be asked, of course, to share some points, but I would be happier to learn.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks. Welcome, Vince. Next up, I can see Musharraf on my screen. Musharraf, please introduce yourself to the group.
Hi, this is Musharraf. I'm from Bangladesh. Currently, I'm the president of the HR Federation in Bangladesh, and I was the past president of the Asia Pacific HR Federation. On top of that, I also work as the head of HR of the International Health and Population Research Organization.
Mr. Hussain, sorry to interrupt, but your voice is breaking too much.
We can't hear you, Musharraf. Your audio is not clear.
Your audio is not clear, Mr. Musharraf. Sorry to interrupt. Is this possible for you to connect with the earphones or some headset?
You don't hear me now?
No, the voice is still cracking. Is it possible to connect earphones or headset, anything like that?
Okay, so you go for the other person. Let me fix it up.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll just continue in the meanwhile while Mr. Hussain fixes his audio. Rita, you're up next. Please introduce yourself.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Yasmin. So good day, everyone. I'm so glad that I've seen so many friends here today. And so firstly, I really want to express my gratitude to ETHRWorld International to work with APAC and the Women Club to organize this wonderful event. And actually, I'm also look forward to a lot of insights from our leaders today so that we can make our world more equitable and more inclusive. Thank you.
Thanks, Rita. Thank you so much. Next up, I can see Ben on the screen. Ben, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. This is Ben. I'm working for Sun Life Asia. I'm in charge of the digital distribution. So today, I'm very glad to learn from you. And also, if I can share something about digital transformation, particularly to empower the Women Club here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ben. Next up, I can see Daya Ambarbati. Daya, would you like to go next?
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Dia Ambarwati. I'm working with PD Sun Life Financial Indonesia, and I'm serving here as a head of HR, the country head of HR, and glad to rejoin Asia HRM Women Club. Hope to contribute well.
Thank you, Dia. Thank you so much. Next up, I can see Rani on my screen. Rani, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, hi everyone. Thank you for having me also. As mentioned that I am supporting Rita for this huge community and a very strong community that we are trying to building now. My full name is Wulan Rani, but you can call me Rani. I am now the Human Strategic Director of one of the best FX trading in Indonesia, and I'm supporting Rita to develop the Asia HRM and also the Asia HR Women Club for Indonesia.
Great, thank you, Rani. Thank you. And finally, I can see Tina on my screen. Tina, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Tina. Thank you for inviting me in this event. My background is come from state price as a holding in fertilizer, and we have 10 subsidiaries. And then I hope I can contribution with sharing about the women empowerment and women for this event. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tina. Looking forward to your session also. We have Musharraf back. Musharraf, hi, would you like to now introduce yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Your voice is still a little cracked.
What happened? Usually I participate.
Yeah, I think, Musharraf, if you'd like to plug in headphones or something. In the meanwhile, we'll just kind of talk a little bit about the theme of today's session, which is about breaking bias to make work more equitable for women. This year, International Women's Day's theme is Break the Bias. And in one study, it was concluded that bias training is likely the most expensive but the least effective diversity program around. But why is that? One major barrier is effective training is defensiveness. People don't want to admit that they have biases. It's not my fault that the first 7 hands up were men. Another obstacle is futility. People see bias as so pervasive that it's hopeless to change it. I can't end prejudice alone, so why bother trying? And the third challenge is uncertainty. Even when people are motivated to take action, they often don't know where to start or how to change. Today's session will reflect upon the following points of discussion, where we'll be discussing about how women are getting more burned out since the pandemic specifically, and when people started working from home. How do we identify and eliminate bias in hiring, rewarding, or promoting women? What is the state of the corporate pipeline? How do we get more women into leadership positions? And finally, what is the road to progress? How do we make our DE&I initiatives more measurable and impactful? And now, without further ado, I'd like to invite Rita Sui, founder, Asia HRM and Asia HR Women Club, to quickly set the tone for the session today from her end. So Rita, over to you now.
Thank you, Yasmin. So good day, everyone here. So it's really my pleasure with all of the leaders here today to celebrate the International Women's Day. So once again, I would like to express my gratitude to ETHRWorld International to work together with us on organizing this wonderful session. And I also like to thank all our leaders today, whether you are from human resources or other disciplines, whether you are a man or a woman, for joining this session. Dr. James Erman Kwiaji Agri ever said, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. But if you educate a woman, you educate a whole nation. So you can see the power of a woman. And I'm so glad that we have male leaders who are inclusive and together with our women leaders to share their insights on making work and our workplaces fair, equitable, and inclusive. So I look forward to a lot of nuggets of wisdom from them today. And one last thing that I would like to make a disclaimer for our leaders today, that all the comments that they're going to make today are their own comments, are their own opinions, that they will not represent their own organization. This is something I want to say on behalf of them. Thank you, Yasmin.
Yeah. So sorry. Once again, I think Avani hasn't got the turn to introduce yourself, right, Avani?
Yep. Can you hear me, Yasmin?
Yes, perfect. Please introduce yourself to the group.
All right. Before I get started, I just want to say hi to my friend Jaisli, and thanks to her for introducing me to this forum. I'm based out of Sydney. In my current role, I'm working with a company called Atlassian. I'm not sure how many people know the name, but it's a tech startup company. You might have heard the names of the products such as Jira, Confluence. So we make all the software products for SaaS companies, headquartered in California, but founded by two Aussie blokes based out of Sydney. In my role currently, I lead a team of global HR business partners supporting the team. I've got the global M&A team reporting into me, and I've also got the APAC region. So my title would be regional head or vice president for APAC. But more than the title, I'm very interested in getting to know this group better. Also, D&I for me personally is very close to me. And for me, I want to get to a stage where we are not talking about D&I anymore as a topic, and it becomes, part of our life, how we live. So.
Absolutely. Great, thanks, Avani. Musharraf, would you like to try now? If you're
I think it will be better now. Can you hear? Yeah. This is Musharraf. I am from Bangladesh. Currently, I am the president of the HR Federation in Bangladesh. I also serve as the president of the Asia Pacific HR Federation. On top, I also work with the International Health and Population Research Organization as the head of HR. And I teach HR in the university. So I'm very much passionate about International Women's Day and the rights for the women. And the organization I work, we have the 50% female, 50% male. So, and this is one of my contributions of, helping the organization to promote more women. Of course, with their quality, it's not compromising inequality. So I'm very much, interested to share some of my views, how we can break the bias and help to create an equitable environment in the organizations and bring the more qualified women in the workplace.
Sure, thank you, Musharraf. Looking forward to some great discussions later on. Anushri, over to you now for the next session.
Thank you so much, Yasmin and Rita, for wonderfully setting the context, and thank you so much all the leaders joining us. Thank you so much for taking out time for this session, and especially I want to extend this thank you to Rita and Rani for making this entire session possible. So now I want to invite our keynote speaker, Tina Kemalintan, who is the Director of HR, Governance and Risk Management, PT Pupuk, Indonesia, to share her views and reflections on the topic, Breaking Bias to Make Work Equitable for Women. Over to you, Tina.
Thank you, Nashri. Good afternoon. It is such a great pleasure for me as a keynote speaker to be a part of this forum. I would like to thank the Asia ETHRWorld Club Committee for the opportunity and honor. I would also like to extend my warm greetings to fellow panelists and all participants in the meeting room. Let's get our main presentation, being diversity, equity, and inclusivity in Indonesia's state-owned enterprise. As a sharing session, lesson learned from Srikandi BUMN, I have a duty to as a chairperson for Srikandi BUMN. Srikandi is a community organization under Indonesia Human Capital Forum as a formal organization led by Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises. It focuses on developing women leadership and women empowerment. I will share in this event the role of Srikandi in empowering women, not only for leaders, but also employees and of SOEs and for the community. Our contribution as Srikandi BUMN to answer our country call, because we have principle to give to our public service to enhance the community well-being. Together, we could share similar beliefs to give a significant contribution to our organization and beyond. Name of Srikandi came from the old tales of in Wayang puppet. Srikandi is the second daughter of Prabu Drupada. She represents a woman figure who has excellent physical and mental health, smart and focused on achievements. Butterfly, as our logo, represents Sriki message. First, perfect transformation. Second, beautiful and pristine. Then the third, provide benefits. Next slide, please. A recent report by UN Women found that a direct result of pandemic-related unemployment and loss in earnings, women's poverty rates have increased by 9.1% worldwide, and the poverty gap between men and women is widening after years. We have learned, especially during the pandemic, women in business are disproportionately affected by the COVID-19. Based on McKinsey report, 2 million women, particularly mothers with young children under the age of 10, consider leaving the workforce or stepping back from their careers. As you can see from the table, it is one reason that leads to more burnout in women last year, with 42% of women saying they have been often or almost burned out. The results are pretty concerning since the gap between women and men has almost doubled. As you see from this graph here, the phenomena occur consistently at all managerial levels. Here are shown several pain points holding back women from career advancement. From a personal perspective, things such as time management, long working hours, work distance, and motherhood issues. From a professional perspective, several issues are stand out. Remember, equality is not a gender issue, but a business issues. If the company has more diverse in high-level leaders, especially more women in BOD, in board of directors, so the company performance will increase from 20 to 50% and make the work environment more comfortable for a woman raise her career. We as a woman realize that sometimes or often we are still suffered from mistreatment and prejudice from our coworkers. Personally, in my early career, things like that often happened. Now situations are changing in the right direction. In our SOE's environment, there are many great examples that I will show you later in the slide. But maybe the most challenging one is our inner confidence. We tend to underrate ourselves and compare our performance to our peers. Here, I want to underline the importance of the ecosystem inside the main family and extended family, and of course in the workplace, to provide psychological safety and support for women to pursue their careers. Next slide, please. Based on the assessment of DDI Indonesia, despite this challenge, I can assure you, as a woman leader myself, we have many strong points compared to our gender counterparts, like driving execution, being enthusiastic, and customer focused. Female leaders are recognized as a typical leaders or manager who take advantage diversity. That is why it is very important to bring more recognition and reward for female leaders' contribution to the workplace. There are three main aspects of the women leaders should pay strong attention to. The first is strategic orientation. The second, business acumen. We can say like profit and loss muscle. Yeah. And the third one is visionary leadership. Realize how important the women's development and empowerment of these matters. Our Minister of State-owned Enterprise in Indonesia, Bapak Erick Thohir, committed to transform of human capital, especially high-level leader comes from women and young generation. Our ministry has a target to achieve 15% female as a board of director in SOEs. This year already achieved. We glad, of course, for that achievement. And next year, this year is 20%, and next year is 25%. This is one of the real example of how diversity, equity, and inclusivity are taken seriously. Last year, we conducted Girls Takeover movement, which gave an opportunity for young female around 18 and 20 years old to experience one day as a minister of SOE. And as a CEO in a top 5 SOE in Indonesia, Telkom, Mandiri, and Airport State-owned Enterprise, it was a great challenge and inspiring moment for young female in Indonesia. And of course, we amplify this to global. Yeah, and we could bring 6,000 candidates, and I hope this year become more. Yeah. This become the strong turning point in women leaders history in SOE, with the founded of Srikandi BUMN in 7 April last year by our minister. May I share the video first? Suaranya. The sound, please. This our organization consists of certain female director in 12 cluster in SOEs. Yeah. Sorry, the sound is not appear. This as a leader, we have a coordinator in each program. Come from oil and gas director, and from the communication and partnership here. We have we have 10 CEO and 5 CEO in a state-owned enterprise from 108 companies in a state-owned enterprise. Yeah. This the last one. Yes. Next slide. Yeah, lanjut. Next slide, please. Yeah, next. Yeah, we have 12 cluster in state-owned enterprise, and consists of 108 companies. Include holding and 1.5 million employees, and inside that 15% is female in BOD. Next slide. This is the program of the Sri Kandi about women leadership and women empowerment. Yeah, next slide. This is about our event activities in women leadership and women empowerment, as I mentioned before. Yes. This women leader in Indonesia, not only in SOEs, but in government area too. We have a 4 minister and in the legislation too, and governor from certain island province. Yes. Next slide. This year, we will focus on leadership program for almost 130 top talent shortlist candidate from BOD-1. They will get a coaching and mentoring from a previous CEO or recent to give more experience and exposure for them. And then we have awarding for like CSR program for business who lead by women, get a CSR program from state-owned enterprise, and then we will make a girls takeover season 2 for this year. Yeah. Yes, the quotes from the Kartini is if we want to others to follow in our footsteps, then the example we give must be something that speaks, evokes admiration and a desire to imitate it. These heroes, women heroes in Indonesia is very popular. I hope all of you already knows about her. Thank you so much from me, and I hope this event will give the inspiration for female wherever we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tina, for this wonderful session. Thank you for sharing these wonderful insights. And I'm sure this would further help us in, going back to a breakout room and discuss all these challenges in detail. And something really, helped me in this presentation was so many women leaders that are arising in your organization and the state. So that's really inspiring. So thank you so much. Now it's time for us to move to the breakout room and discuss the theme in detail. We will be having 2 breakout rooms, which will be moderated by Yasmin and Rita. In each group, we will be discussing 4 questions, which is about the 2 years into the pandemic, how women are now significantly more burnout. The second question would be more about identifying and eliminating bias in the entire employee life cycle, which includes hiring, rewarding, promoting women. The third question would be about how do you get more women in C-suite and other board positions. And the last question would be, how are we going to make our DE&I initiatives more measurable to create more maximum impact? So now I request my team to move us to the breakout room and request our moderators to conclude the discussion sharp at 2:30 p.m. so that we can come back to the main screen and share the key reflections from each of your group.
Great. So we have 5 leaders who will be brainstorming upon how do we take the way forward when it comes to becoming more equitable for our women workforce. And I'd like to thank you all again for joining us, and would love to hear your personal viewpoints, your organizational viewpoints, and also how, what suggestions you could have that other leaders can learn from of how do we go forward, the way forward for us. So thank you for joining us. We should now begin with the first session, with the first question. I'm so sorry. And the first question is, it's very interesting. We've been 2 years into the pandemic, but we can see, and researchers have proven that women are now significantly more burned out, and increasingly more so than men. So how can organizations approach workplace burnout and retain talent, especially for their female colleagues? And the floor is open to everybody, but Musharraf, if you'd like to start by answering this question first.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for inviting me to speak my views. The pandemic for last 2 years affected everyone, but more importantly, if we critically look and see that it affected women more than men because of your 3 different roles, the family role, job role, reproductive role, children role. So in terms of burnout, it is definitely more than men. We have only one job. So that's the reason. And it is now that most of the organizations are coming back to the workplace, and you see that it is a habit thing. When it was a work from home situation, it was a little bit better in the sense that you are at the home, so you can take care of things. But now that you are going back to office in most cases, the and distance is there. What I strongly feel that this COVID pandemic taught us how we can be flexible. In many organizations, there is no system of work from home or increasing use of the internet and serving from anywhere. But now that it is part of our habit, what I see that organizations need to, at this stage, need to change the policies and procedures. Because if you see in the look of most of the organization, there was nothing written that you can work from home or flexibility, those kind of things. But now I think as HR professional, we have to take the lead responsibilities in order to revise the rules and procedures, and so that in organization we can incorporate kind of flexible work hours, work from home, or like you see in many Asian organizations, it was attendance-based management. That you have to be in the office, you have to be in the 8 hours in the office. But that can be a little bit changed from attendance-based system to result-based system. So what I'm supposed to do, if I can deliver those results from home, then why not? So those actually are not covering in the policies of most of the organizations. So we have to, this is a different world. Men are burnout, women are more burnout. So how we can still contribute for the organization? We need to review our existing policies and procedures. We have to little bit change our mindset. The problem is that our mindset is a different, that you work, you are bound to come, you have to do this. So that kind of regimental approach should be changed and to introduce some kind of flexibility, work from home. And if we really need to take the women at home, there are some women who has their babies, so we have to also make sure that the office is fully equipped with a daycare or creche or baby care center. In many organizations, they had, but they have dismantled everything. So those we need to rebuild in order to bring back the women. But remember, the organization survived, we survived because during this pandemic time, we were not limited to 8 hours. Particularly, I can tell you in my organization, in many situations, we really broken our habit of 8 hours. Even during night, we responded, we attended the meeting. So those we have to also remember that the contributions of the employees, particularly the women. And I do not have any research support, but what I think that the productivity of women increased significantly during work from home. That is my observation from as a president of the Federation in Bangladesh. I have seen that there was no need for travel time, there was no agony. Your children are around you, so you can manage it. So this is where we have to recognize the contributions. And taking this learning, we can redesign our policies and procedures and make sure that now we are achieving the result. Don't need that you have to be present in the office 8 hours or 9 hours. That is
understood. Yes,
that's important to me.
Sure.
So that's my views at the introductory discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Musharraf. I think, yes, that makes a lot of sense because it is about, as you said, mindset change. It is about understanding that women require a different kind of approach when you're trying to build policies and processes. You have to create that flexibility, create that environment for them where they can balance work life and personal life, no matter whether they're working from home or working from the office or any mode. So thanks for those notes. Anybody else would like to tell us about how, organizations can make it better for women and how the pandemic has increased burnout for them? Any other thoughts from the group here?
Probably I will start. I think when we talk about women most of the time, especially those who are having young children, I'm a woman, you're having a young children, to juggle the workload, and also taking care of young children. There's two kind of phases that we went through when these young mothers have to take care of the children. And in the pandemic, how do they manage their children and balance out with the work that they're supposed to climb up the ladder, right? So one of the things that I have in mind, basically looking at our people surrounding, talking to our staff, employees, as well as, to other people outside. Company were able to give flexible working hours. You see, it's actually flexible working hours there when certain times, these are the core time. They need to attend core meeting, core engagement with the team. But the rest is actually leave it to the supervisor and also the employee to discuss how they wanted to manage their performance. Normally, in terms of flexible working hours, probably it's actually the core time, probably like 10 to 11, 1 or 2 hours. Then in the afternoon, probably about 3 to 4, where they can actually manage the children's, feed them, send them to nursery, and take them back and so forth. So some extent, right? So that is actually flexible working hour. The other one is actually, you can also, those people who's actually having children who are, schooling, still need to take care. So we also give it a 3 flexible working days, like 3 days in the office, 2 days in anywhere. So these are the things that we can also explore. Absolutely. So that's not giving attention to the women, especially.
Yes, I do.
They are tied in. Thank you.
Again, it's about flexibility, as you said, adjusting to their lifestyles, the kind of needs they have, and making policies, because productivity will not be an issue. You just need to give them the right platform and the right flexibility to work through. So thanks, great points there, Nur Hamija. Moving on to our second question for this discussion today. We are talking about breaking the bias, and International Women's Day, the theme is breaking the bias. So how do you think can we organizations identify and eliminate bias, especially in hiring, rewarding, and promoting women? And Dia, I would like to come to you first with that question.
Thank you, Yasmin. So I guess the first hygiene things that we need to do on bias is to introduce what bias is, right? Because bias has been hand in hand implemented together with the norm that we are living in, and also the culture, right? And it is not easy to remove, right? And that is why it is very important that we introduce the biases at the workplace to our employee first. And then what following that should be a constant education, and we need to emphasize what is the culture of the organization and what are the intended behaviors that we would like to see from our employees to showcase every day. Then we also need to underline that we need to respectfully honor what the cultures that the employees have been brought in or brought up, right? So in that case, there won't be any cultural shock or a misinterpretation of what the biases are. And then the next step would be the pulse check on the understanding towards the biases, and we can prove that through implementation of many creative activities to remove the biases. Like, for example, in my company, we have twice a year reminded sessions, and it is recorded to ensure that the employee understand what are the intended behaviors that they need to showcase at the workplace. And then next thing, we also work together with the external party to support what we believe, right? Like right now, my company is working together with a national association in Indonesia, where the association is basically holding the breadwinners, the women's breadwinners in Indonesia, and educate them to ensure that they can be on their own with the loss of their husband or the family members that have been supporting them as breadwinners. So this is something else that we can do as an initiative to showcase our seriousness in breaking the biases. And moreover, we need to step into engineering a performance-based total rewards and also development programs that are equally implemented to all employees. So we do not differentiate genders, age, and everything. It needs to work for all. And it has to be clear, and I think communicate is the key. And we also need to calibrate the things that we want to measure, right? And celebrate the achievements at the same time, right? And when it comes to measuring, probably we can also showcase something that is very important to our HR metrics, such as turnover of women in our organization, the promotion of women, the number of leadership positions and key positions in our organization, and the high performer women's in our organization. So in that case, we can project a holistic, program from end to end that showcase a good understanding to our employees. I also would like to let you know that one of the example of holistic total rewards that we apply is giving the medical insurance coverage for the female employees' dependents. So that includes husbands and also the children. So I guess those are the 2 cents from my end. Hopefully it can inspire the rest.
Yes, very beautifully put through, Dia. I think it is about the culture of the organization. How well are you, educating your people about the culture? How well are you helping them to understand what biases are? Once they understand, that's how you can recalibrate and work on removing those biases. And as you said, it is really, it's very important to communicate. It's very important to calibrate and very important to celebrate also. Great points there. Helen, I'd like to ask you, what are your thoughts on how can we let go of these biases and identify them and then, educate our employees about them?
Okay, so I may share a little bit regarding what's my observation and also some of the practice in my enterprise. Sure. So actually, I agree with Diane that this is related about the company culture. So to how to build about the company culture, to have the people to get the awareness. So from my company that we are building that through our business corporate value and behaviors. Meanwhile, that is always that to have some of the training learning session about to aware about unconscious bias. So some of those bias you even not aware that is you already have the bias of yourself. So that is we continue to have this kind of sharing, learning, and education for the hiring manager about those. And for the specific question regarding breaking the bias in some of those HR process, I may share a little bit from my experience. So from the hiring experience, actually that can be some of the intervene can be take action upon that. So first is regarding that during the job posting. So some of those job posting that you can make sure those wording, the sentence is gender neutral. So actually from my organization, we using a third party website that we can type into the job adverts, and then it will be appear about the score whether this is gender neutral or not, and then we can improve about that. The second is really about the who is involving in the panel and hiring manager, him or herself. So actually this is what I shared to build about to share about the awareness about unconscious bias, what is the process to make sure that the fair, equity, meritocracy, etc. And from the TA perspective, what we can moving forward is that we introduced about in my organization called Hiring Inclusively. So that we're working with a third party consulting firm within some of the big data and from different markets, from different job functions, and to show about the dashboard to say in different market, different job family, what are the female ratio about those hire. So from that, we reach to some of the recommendation to say in certain range that we minimum shortlist a certain amount of the female candidate. In which percentage we might not have a big pool, so we can that have a smaller number of a shortlist during that. And the final one is during the decision-making process. It is sure that is to consider about different perspective, involve different people into that. So even for our panel, that we will say that we ensure that the diverse panel, that is not means about female and male panel member in that, but also including in some of the market, we are including some ethnic presentation or minority presentation into that as well. So this is about something in the hiring, and for maybe that a little bit share about the development perspective. So actually that is, I will say that one is awareness, the second is really have the clear measure regarding what is during different HR stage about that. So in my current organization, it has the clear stage to say what is the target or the female percentage in build versus buy. And also that is during the succession planning. So we also that introduced to say what is the ratio in some of those succession for the senior level or critical roles. What is the female ratio during that? And the whole organization measure that year on year and checking that about the hiring, the line managers to about those measures. And last but not least, in our company, it is also promote about the minority talent program. So it is not specifically about the gender, the female, but also regarding the general minority that can be ethnic in different regions, in different countries, that also can be some of the minority regarding disabled, and also some of those is regarding different population, etc. So a bit of share 2 cents from my side. Yeah.
Great. There were some great initiatives that you shared. I think if organizations create those policies and they have it in their culture to become inclusive, and as you said, it's not just about women, it's about minorities, about all kind of diversity, and how do you bring them together in your hiring and in developing process. I think that sets the tone for an equitable workplace. So thanks for sharing that. Vince, I can see you raised your hand. Please share your thoughts on this.
Thank you, Yasmin. I was about to put down my hand already because Helen and Dia already said it very well enough. But let me just share, because I'm the only one from the Philippines right here. Let me just recall what Helen said. There are biases that we are not aware of. Okay. Now, let's try to understand why are there such biases that we are not aware of. Because historically speaking, in every nation, like 1800s, okay, or early 1900s, women actually are always behind men. Okay, now you can totally relate to this because we are all Asians, right? And in fact, there are some nations today, I can say Korea, that until today they practice that some kind of inequality in terms of, in the society. For example, when you eat, women should be seated at the other side, and men should be seated at the other side, things like that. And there are a lot of these practices that when the time came to a point where women are already like career oriented and they already need to work, because first things first, on our first topic, we were saying like, why are women more burned out than men? No, it's easy to understand. You know why? Because women are the ones taking care of the family. Now, if the head of the family cannot provide it all, then women tend to help their husbands by working also. So that's a very practical, observation there. Now, on top of these responsibilities at home,
they have responsibilities in the office. Okay, now the pressure is even heavier if there is a conscious gender inequality in the workplace, because there are some organizations which policies are still remote. The women are still not recognized. They just, there are industries, cottage industries, textile industries. If you look at the ratio, women is more than men. Okay, practically there are only less men. Okay, meaning, in other words, the responsibility is heavier on the shoulders of women, simply because, number one, they have to be able to be a responsible mother, at the same time a partner. Now, on top of that, economically, when the income is not enough, you are not only managing your time in your family, but you're also managing your finances. So that's give more problems. Now, I appreciate it very much when Dia was mentioning these programs in place in their company, and talking about culture fit. Okay, talking about the organizational culture, and everywhere, every organization develops their culture because it is what you call branding. Okay, now, on top of the culture, organizational culture, the government, first and foremost, must be at the top of the list to recognize women's role in society. Okay, I just would like to make mention that, because it was already mentioned many times, like, you have to have a clear mindset, you have to have a clear paradigm shift, you have to have clear policy making and understanding of all the policies. It is not only doing or making these policies, but the educating part of it. Okay, making everyone understand these biases, because there are unconscious biases. That's what Helen is saying. Okay, biases that we are not aware of. But here's the challenge: we have to be able to make a conscious effort how to curb the unconscious bias. Okay, and these unconscious efforts are through the programs for women. On top of these organizational programs, because only organizations are only a number, but nationwide, okay, the government should be, first of all, on top of this, doing something. Now, let me just share with you, because I haven't heard from anyone, but I'm sure you have your laws there. Sorry for if I will take time, because I tried to come up with a list of laws in the Philippines that supports women. Let me just read about this. Republic Act 7600, supporting the practice of breastfeeding at the workplace. So every workplace actually is mandated to have a breastfeeding section. Okay, and at the same time, if they want to bring your kids to your work, there is a playground area. Okay, and if there are schedules which women are assigned at night shift schedules, there is what we call the alternative to night work schedule before and after childbirth. Okay, so because you cannot avoid it, they are only assigned to night shifts. So there must be an alternative schedule for them, especially for those who are about to give birth and after giving birth. Okay, those are for married women. Now, there are also articles in our labor code that prohibits discrimination for women, against women. And this is with respect to terms and conditions solely on account of their sex or sexual orientation. Okay, so there are laws that protects women's right as being the other gender. Now, we also have a comprehensive women's human rights law to eliminate discrimination, especially those belonging in the marginalized sectors, because, as I've said earlier, there are small businesses, and these are marginalized sectors. Now, if the government is only looking at the big picture, the smaller picture, they only look at the big companies. But how about the smaller companies? Okay, we also have the protection against discrimination or harassment through anti-sexual harassment law. It's very strong here. And I was in India, that is also a very strong law there. And we have the Safe Spaces Act that is covering all forms of gender-based sexual harassment. we have now very rampantly, and in the society now, LGBTQ is already being recognized, right? So to cover laws, to cover their rights, this law was mandated. Now, I understand there was a mention earlier of extending the benefits to the family of the women, right? I understand it was in the Philippines, we have a law something to that effect, expanded maternity leave, wherein the employed woman can give some of the leave credits, the maternity leave credits, to her husband. So the husband can also attend to her during that time. So, well, that is all. When you say how to break through the biases, make a conscious effort to curb the unconscious bias. So that's it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yasmin, if I can add on Vince's explanation, I totally agree. I think all aspects needs to work hand in hand, and I totally agree that the tone from the top should come from the government itself. Because I have to admit, there are some government regulations that still, somewhat disadvantages to women here in Indonesia. So I think this is something that we need to work together, and company culture is really powerful as a start, and it should be a tone from the CEO down to all the leaders, and then understood by the employees.
Absolutely agree. I think, as you said, that the tone from the top, whether it's the government or is it the leadership in your organization, both ways it has to come from the top so that the culture gets built accordingly. When you see your leaders doing that, you emulate that behavior. So if you let go of biases, that's how you work. I want to move on to my next question. And Avni, I haven't heard from you yet, so maybe I'll come to you about this. We're talking about building the state of the corporate pipeline today. And, I still feel that getting more women in C-suite is a challenge. So how can we promote more women in leadership roles? How can we bridge this gap, Avni? If you'd like to take this up, and then I'll move to the others.
Thanks, Yasmin. So before I answer that question, the way I would say, we've covered the point around culture, setting the tone from the top, and all of those are the key pivotal, I would say, ingredients that you need to get this going. In my experience, I've always seen when you lift up the D&I of diversity, equity, and inclusion, when you have a more holistic range to it, then how you work on the gender diversity, it helps you, as one of the key this thing. But if you start bottoms up to say, hey, let's start with gender and then take it up, it hasn't worked. So that's one call out from my perspective. Once you say, if you've got the right tone, you've got the right culture in the organization, then the biggest thing is now, what do we do? How do we actually implement it on the ground? They're always two dimensions. One is the usual response from everyone is like, let's focus on hiring. And we set some D&I goals for hiring to say we will only hire 40% or X, Y, Z. So for example, we have done that in terms of hiring a very clear, and we try and stay away from calling it goals, because then you're driving a very different behavior, because then people say, okay, fine, I won't look at male candidates, I need to meet my goals. I think you have to roll it out more as in terms of this is our aspiration or this is our intent, so that you're not driving D&I in a very, I would say, because then that also defeats the purpose, having done that a couple of times, I would say. That's one dimension in terms of what external talent you're able to bring in, and not just at the C-suite, but I would say at all levels. What I've also seen is the more technical roles, and especially for our world in a SaaS organization, not across I would say across the globe, if you do a deep dive of talent ID, very few female candidates even pursue engineering as a career to start with. So if to start with, your funnel looks very different when you're talking about tech jobs. So it's always good to kind of lean in and focus from your grad pipeline, and rather than saying, okay, fine, I'm going to go and hire, because it doesn't exist at this point in time. So it will be always good to kind of, from your hiring measure, see what your, the entry-level jobs look like and how you can build on that. The second one is also, if people are not taking tech as one of their faculty or one of their career option, then how can you build some parallel work streams of doing some cross-culture, from cross-functional upskilling within the organization. So for example, I may not be an engineer, but I would still be good in terms of helping with some hardware aspect of a laptop or an IT help desk and so on and so forth. So there are various, I think we have various ways to address that. The second dimension altogether, when it comes to D&I and how do you increase a more, I'm just focusing on gender because the conversation is more around gender, but we have very specific, I would say, again, objectives around ethnicity. You break it down further. If you're talking about America, then what does it mean for Latin, what does it mean for Black, women of color? So the more granular, the more detailed you get, the more awareness you drive around the whole aspect of equity and inclusion, and not just focus on gender. We do work very, very closely from a talent management perspective to say at various levels of what is the pool of female candidate. I'll just narrow it down to female, but we call them underrepresented groups, URGs, so that you're not talking about just female. So we look at our URG population at each level of seniority, and then we go from there in terms of, okay, fine, if this is the middle level layer, this is your internal pool already available, which you can move across from an internal mobility perspective. And again, it requires a little bit more focused approach, I would say. When you slice your data is the key here, you will come across in terms of what support do they need. Usually you will see, I don't want to generalize, but I think the support that they would require would be more in terms of a coach, for example, having a more, female coach or some female leaders, how they've grown. This thing is always helpful. Some kind of a mentorship program has always been super helpful in that space. And I think what really works well in developing these leaders is if you create or build a network for them outside of the organization to tap into, that always helps for you to even bring some of the underrepresented group or a different, D&I talent inside the organization. You have to also, when I'm talking about the external networks, what has helped us is if you build that network really well, because there's some really powerful forums out there, it helps you to tap into some really senior leader who have driven D&I in their past lives. So you don't have to necessarily hire a woman for a senior role, but you can hire a senior leader who has probably, built a more equitable team around him or her. So that has been, I would say, super helpful. How you work with your executive search firms. If I'm just talking about C-suite, Yasmin here, I would say in your SOW or in the scope of work that you narrowed down, you say, this is how the funnel should look like. This is what we would like. And you have to go very hard because the first reaction is like, we don't have it. This is what it is. So as the more patient you are in terms of at least hiring the C-suite and then giving it that much more time and be more intentional, not going with a very narrow scope of role to say, this is what I need. And if I'm hiring a CFO, it has to tick all these boxes, otherwise no. So I think there are multiple, I would say, strategies that work there. But my 2 cents in terms of it should be measurable, break it down to specific action that teams can take rather than just a general training or just a session around the year to say it's Women's Day, so we are doing this. It has to be a little bit more tangible for managers. Also make it a part of their overall, I would say, we haven't done it, but I know in my previous lives, making a part of their performance review cycle to say, like, unless you don't hit this number or you have built it, it really impacts you at a senior leadership and above. So then people start taking that seriously, be it attrition, be it D&I, and so on and so forth.
Great, thanks, Avni. Great points there. I think there are multiple ways and the kind of ideas you shared through which organizations can look at having women at different levels, and especially at the leadership level. As you said, it has to be intentional, it has to be aspirational, not just a tick in the box for people to meet a certain number, but they should have the intent. And I think, as you said, the culture again fits in very well there, where you want to have and promote more women to leadership roles. So thanks for sharing that. Helen, would you like to share anything around how can we have more women in leadership positions?
Okay, so first of all, that I may share a little bit regarding the newly announced regarding the female representation in my organization. So it is just announced the 2 days ago. So actually, that out of 11 executive leadership team, so that is the CEO direct reports. Out of 11, that now we got 6 female. So that is quite significant, 55%. And in a male-dominant industry, in oil and energy industry, this is very phenomenal. And actually, we also set some of the female gender diversity aspirations starting from 10 years ago. So that in 2020, we set some of the target, and our group executive level is more beyond of those. So we setting the target at that time is 1/4 about group executive level with female, while we achieve 29% right now. And we even set some of a more stretched target. By 2025, 40% of our group leadership team, and 35 of our we call the senior leadership team, senior leadership equivalent to market VP direct level, that achieved to 35%. So this is only one thing regarding some of the DNI, we call the DNI ambition, some of the measure in the company. The second is really about the pipelining. So when we saying that about the C-suite, but we really need to looking into the 1 level or 2 level below, that building upon the pipeline to feed that into C-suite in 3 years, 5 years time. And also when we're looking into the senior executive level, so VP direct level, we may even that are looking into the frontline, middle manager or frontline level to see how they build that up, and also focus about bring them in. The second is really about to build about have some of the development plan that for some targeted high potential females. So that is development program is one thing, ensure they have the networking, mentoring, sponsorship in the organization. This is one part. The second is really about to say they get the relevant experience. So that is that can be say, or that is they moving across different function, geographic to enable them to getting some of a different stretch about the experience, develop their capability, this kind of things. So what I'm thinking is to say that absolutely the organization would like to look after them. Meanwhile, I will always agree to say this is the self-initiative. So that is a pull and a push. So this is some of my sharing about this question. Thanks.
Great points there. Thanks for sharing those, Helen. I think I also agree. As you said, how do you feed them at the mid-levels where they grow up to become leaders in the future? And how do you train them and enable them, empower them in that manner is going to be very important. Musharraf, would you want to add something? Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, thank you for sharing, Bani and Helen, the great ideas. What I see from my observation, that women, in most cases, they join the workplace late. So they are a little bit behind in the race because they join late. And that's require organization to take some affirmative action plans. And that affirmative action plan is not to actually give them the extra favor, rather to bring them to the equal race. And for that, I strongly believe that this should be one of the objectives of the senior leadership in the organization, to bring their women in the C-suite level, and it is possible. And in my previous organization, I worked with the CARE International. What we have done that we have introduced the special women leadership programs, bringing the best talent from the market and university, and then give them the opportunity to prove them. But in no way we did not compromise any asking requirement. You see, giving the opportunity does not mean that you'll get it automatically, but you have to prove it. And this way, so I strongly believe that we need to do some affirmative action plan if we really want to make a balance in the C-suite level. And we have to have some objectives of the CU and the senior leadership, and they must do it. In many cases, what I see that in terms of percentage, this is fine, but there is a glass ceiling. after certain level. And that glass ceiling needs to be broken. And unless we can break it, then the women will be in the subordinate situation, which will not be a good thing in order to get their views and ideas. The world is almost 50-50 male female. In organization also, then if you see the customer base, this is the same thing. So this is a business case. It's not something that I'm favoring someone. It's a business case. And whatever business you do, profit, non-profit organization, whatever business require it. And for that, it should be included in the strategic plan. It should be included in the business plan. And of course, with the HR professional, we should link this with our HR plan because it has to be handled at the top level. It's not something that we can handle at the bottom. So that's the 2 cents contribution from my side.
I think I really like the point, Musharraf, about, it makes business sense. So you have to include it in your business planning, having women, we are equal in the world. So you need to have those women in your organization in order to grow as a business. A great point there. Thanks for sharing. That brings me to the final question today. And we're now talking about the road to success and how can we make our DEI, initiatives more measurable, more impactful? How do we make sure that the results are tangible? And I'd like to hear most of you. We have around 10 minutes to go before we wrap up our discussion today. So I think, Dia, would you like to answer? Or Nor Hamija, we haven't heard you in a while. If you could tell us about, what are your thoughts on how can we make our DEI goals more, measurable and to create maximum impact?
For me, as a company, must support it. They have actually put it in their KPI. In the leaders' KPIs to develop, the diversity, the EI, right? All those things must be spelled out clearly in the KPI of the leaders as you from the top, and it has to be driven by the top and has to be cascade down to the at least at the middle management, so that they will be able to see the impactful or whatever we are doing is reflective to that overall. So that's my view. Thank you.
Great, that's a great point. Vince, I think you had raised your hand for something. I'm sorry, I just remember that. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Thank you, Yasmin. Actually, it was the point that I was about to reinforce, the one shared by Musharraf, business sense, talking about business sense, because when you talk about an HR plan, an HR program, or any other program of any section department in your organization, you talk about your business plan. And to address women inequality, we should always remember to implement gender neutral processes. Okay, these gender neutral processes involves all processes, as in all processes, giving I like it when Musharraf mentioned about breaking that ceiling. Okay, so that is only telling us that there is no border for women or any other belonging to the other marginalized groups. Okay, disabled individuals, different gender orientation, and all that. Let me just share that in my organization today, last year, we talk about demographics, we talk about numbers. We had like movements, 48 employee movements, 48 promotions. And out of that 48 promotions, 20 of them were women. Okay. And we're not only talking about ordinary women. We are talking about a heavy equipment operator women. Have you seen that in any organization? We're talking about women who are welders, electricians. So we're talking about the general sense of equality here. Now, in our leadership team, out of 11 leaders in the organization, in us are 5 women managers. Okay, so that's really true. That's really right, and that's very realistic. Though women develop their careers only later, but the moment you give that opportunity to women, they will really perform better than, I'm sorry, Musharraf, they perform better than us sometimes. So you have to have a bias-based goals. So this is encompassing everything, your plans, your goals, and when you employ a gender neutral process, that includes determining the one that was mentioned earlier, succession. Okay, must be able to identify the next liners not based on the gender, but based on the critical role, on the criticality of role, based on qualification, based on performance.
Yes.
So that gives everything an equal chance to, to go up that what we call the corporate ladder. Anyway, we are born equal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great points again, Vince. Thank you so much for adding that. Dia, would you like to tell us a bit about how can we make our DEI initiatives more measurable, more impactful, so that they stay?
Yeah. First of all, we need to ensure that the goals that we made really covers the generational needs, right? And then we need to ensure that equal opportunities for all are clear and loud, right? And therefore, the transparent communications and ongoing communications must take place. So employee can participate, give feedbacks, and contribute in their way, right? And then ongoing educational activities needs to be in place as well. And moreover, the solid data analytics of the initiative applied needs to be shared as well. We may see that the turnover and then the promotion, the leadership bench are something that is common, but it can be powerful when we use it wisely, is if we slice the data into deeper, deeper intention, right? Like if we want to know the generational turnover and who they are, we can always spend the time to review that, right, and analyze that. And that is something that is not new, but it is more focused and it is more, again, measurable. And last but not least is also when we do the employee engagement survey, we need to ensure that we also accommodate the aspiration that needs to be channeled through DE&I initiative, and we need to follow it up. So it will be is a systematic and structured and a holistic way of implementing DE&I, and moreover concentrating on what women needs in our organization. So I'm a big believer on a strategic and structured way of doing things. It doesn't mean that I'm not agile, yeah, but these are the things that make our program more sustainable, moreover, accountable and credible in the eyes of our employees, that will leave a good footprint to our organization as well. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, great points there. I think, as you said, that it has to be strategic. It has to be well thought through from the very beginning, from the very core of the culture of the organization. And that's how it becomes sustainable. And you have to make sure it's sustainable. Very, very important point. Avani, anyone else would like, Avani, would you like to add about how we can make our DEI practices? Yes, sir.
I would like to add few points in the DEI issue. This is another area, very lately people recognize that we need to have the diversity, equality, and inclusions. And the organization currently I'm working, we are trying to do a lot of things. And to some extent, we are successful. We have been able to hire transgender people in as a workforce. We have been able to hire some disabled people. But we realize that these are not sufficient. These are traditionally happening. So very recently, we have decided to organize a special career fair only for the disabled people. And that is probably sometimes something is very new in Bangladesh. I never heard any organization has done it. And we have communicated with some of the disabled managing organizations because we don't know all of them. So we did some partnership with those organizations to bring them. Because our experiences, some of the disabled people we have in the organizations, their performance is outstanding. And I interviewed some of them, and what I found that they think that not many organizations hire us. So since we got this opportunity, we will give our best. And this is what is the commitment, is the inner commitment from those people. And you see, Bangladesh is a Muslim country. There are some superstition about the transgender people. You see, I don't know why. I find no reason, but it is happening. They are treating very differently. In many cases, they are being subject to harassment on the street also. But we are also realizing that we need to promote them. Otherwise, they are the part of the society. So you see, when it is a diversity, it is not only men and women. It has to be the other people who are particularly in the disadvantageous situation. And not many organizations are hiring them. One last example is that one of the cosmetics manufacturing company, they shared in one of the webinar, I was one of the speaker, and what they shared that they have hired 1,000 disabled people. And among the disabled people, this is the packaging industry, and the blind people, their performance is outstanding. So it is very, very amazing to know that packaging needs a lot of things to see, but they have no eyes that they don't see. But interestingly, their performance is outstanding among the disabled. And I was asking why, and they said that same answer, that we do not have many organizations who hire and recognize us. So since we got it, so we are giving our best and doing this. So with this few examples, I would like to really mention that this is a win-win case. It's not that you are hiring and helping somebody, but you are getting the best performance also.
Yeah.
So these are my additions. Thank you.
Thanks. I think it's all about create those opportunities, give those opportunities, and see the magic that this can bring. The magic that diversity, the magic that inclusion can bring. We have around 3 minutes to go, and yes, Vince, please, over to you.
Can I have the 3 minutes, the last 3 minutes? Thank you very much.
I wanted to hear Abni also, so I'll give you 1.5 and 1.5 to Abni. In that case, so
I just like to really do it very quickly. I just have 4 additional points but everything that was said here is very much true. And number one, to know the impact and if the impact is really doing good for the business. Number one, the D&I initiative is very much alive when you see job satisfaction. And job satisfaction actually is determined by retention. My KPI actually is greater than 95% employee retention rate. So that's quite difficult because I have over 1,000 employees. So I have to maintain that. Now, number 2 is there's an obvious diversity of employees. As Mosharov mentioned it, not only about gender. We're also talking here about ethnicity, religion, race, background, etc., etc. Now, in my organization, analytics. I understand Dia is very much in love with analytics. In my organization today, there are about more than 20 religions. Wow. Actually, yeah. And because we share one common mess hall, we have to consider every religion in terms of the food that we serve, because food is free. And it's a mining, I want to discuss more about this, but and number 3, and the most important one, is the employee experience. If the employee experience, because you can see it from the faces of your employees, if they're happy, the employee experience is from the moment they were hired to the moment they retired, and they have nothing to say about your company, but all praises. Now, the key to inclusivity in determining DE&I is first identify, second develop, and 3 retain. Those are just 3 basic principles, right? Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vince. Great points there. I think I love the point about looking at the employee experience from hire to retire makes all the difference. Avni, your final words on that, please. How do we make this measurable, impactful for the way forward?
My take on this, Yasmin, will be definitely putting targets and everything helps in place. But if I break those targets into actual actions, is where it really helps. The employee experience or the employee life cycle that Vince just mentioned, it's so important that it should be a part and embedded into throughout the employee life cycle. I think the focus so far has always been so much in just hiring and not so much in developing at the other end. Analytics, you will see, I think there are various ways to cut the analytics rather than just looking at the numbers. If you could want to do like some bit of a sentiment analysis and do some more qualitative analysis there, it always helps. It gives you a very different perspective so that you're not just talking about numbers. And I think from a forum like this, Yasmin, it's also good when we meet next time. It will be good for us to share some of our DNI, I would say, network or profile of leaders that we know, because that personally I've seen has really helped. So for example, if I'm hiring tomorrow for a C-suite or a senior leadership, when I go to those forums, when I speak to them, they actually bring us a lot of their referrals or people that they know, and it just helps. Like it has actually helped me. So that's my only last bit in terms of contributing to this.
Great points there. Thank you so much. I think we have 30 seconds left. I think overall what I heard from all of our leaders here in this room is that breaking the bias is all about culture. Breaking the bias is about having the right intent. And I think that's what we'll go and discuss back into the main room where we'll discuss the points you shared about the culture. Yes, Vince, you have something to add before we go? Oh, no. Okay. All right. So I saw your hand raised. Yeah. So that's all about it. So we'll see you in the main room now and discuss what we've discussed and, debrief the others about it also. So thank you once again, everyone.
We now have 5 speakers here, and we do have, we have to go back to the room at 2 o'clock, right? Basically, we have around 50 to 55 minutes. I think 50 minutes. Now is 55 minutes for the whole session. So just to play safe, I would like to have four questions. So I would like to have around 10 minutes for each of the question. Okay. So I would like to start with Alusha. If we still have like, if 10 minutes is over, you put up your hand.
Sure.
Okay. So that I would allow you 1 or 2 minutes more for the speaker to finish it. Okay.
Sure.
Put up your hand. Okay. Okay, so let me start with the first question. 2 years into pandemic, women are now significantly more burnt out and increasingly more so than men. How organizations can approach workplace burnout and retain talent, especially female colleagues? Before we start with a speaker on this question, may I have someone who is doing this summary? Anybody who would like to do the summary of the whole discussion? So when we go back to the main room, this representative will be doing a summary of the discussion. May I have Tina? I would like to hear from you to speak more. You like to do a quick summary?
Maybe better from other first because I already.
Okay, so I will have my buddy ready to do it, to take up this challenging task. Okay, Rani. So here comes the, this is question number 1. So we have Jaisley here, right? Okay, good. Okay, so I know that Jaisley would like to take this question. Yeah, my dear Kara,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure that there's many organizations out there has provided like flexi work arrangements to help the not just female employee but the whole company as a whole. But as of now, I think that it's more than just flexible work arrangement. It's already a work-life integration management. So in order for the companies to help to better approach in the workplace to retain and identify burnout, particularly in the female workforce, I think it is important that as a responsible employer, we should provide guidance to managers, like how to identify the sign or symptom of workplace burnout. like also advocate for mindset changes. Like we don't expect our staff to, like for example, as a management, we shouldn't advocate for people to reply our emails after working hours. And also provide a very safe and supportive environment for the employee to stand up or work up to the management or HR to say that they are under stress and they are feeling burnout. I think provide a safe environment where they feel that they have a voice in the company, that they wouldn't be discriminate, or they will be they feel that yeah, people are genuine, sincerely care. And we ask for managers, like I said, manager, I think it's important that they also need to equip with the skill to not just identify, but constantly check in with the employee and be more empathetic. Empathetic in the work arrangement, or be understanding on the female's requirements. You know, sometimes at home we hear that kids are screaming around and they have to tell halfway, sorry, excuse me. I think the empathetic is very important because it's a work-life integrations where they have to juggle at the same time the children is screaming and they have to attend meeting. So the safe environment is important because apart from all this, manager is also playing a part to be the preventive of, like we always say, prevention is better than cure. So we prevent them to even feel that there is a need of empathetic manager. We should be take proactive actions. And therefore, a manager can provide a coach or training to managers to help them understand how can they identify and help employees cope with the managing life and work. And apart from that, I also think that organizations can do, which is like providing counseling services or advocate for flexible work arrangements, facilities, so that we all have a mutual understanding. And one thing that I like the most is, for example, mentoring programs to make it more humanized to employees, where building the element of inclusion, development, and support with an emboldened of females make them feel like they're more than just a cog in the wheels, right? And perhaps another way the company can do is setting up a females or women's forums for females colleagues to come together to share about their interests, to share about their hobby, so that it become more casual. And also what are the life challenges? You know, especially women, they all like to get together, then they start to talk about their kids. And they start to talk about, oh, my kids have this problem, that problem. Then they say, oh, I use this solution. I have this tuition. So this will be a very supportive forum for women to support each other because they know best that their home challenge and the work challenge, they have a similar experience. And apart from that, like just like I mentioned about the prevention, through the discussions, we can also increase the self-belief in oneself that they are self-worth and self-care to cope with stress and work at home. Of course, a holistic plan like family-friendly policies or flexible arrangement allow employees to maintain their autonomous and consistency, also improve the satisfaction, right, for the engagements of the females worker. So apart from all this, I'm sure that those policies, including providing child support, parent care support, and understanding leader, but I think what's most important is also the senior leadership. Senior leadership take a proactive step, not just advocating or champion for the change or take the lead role, but also share the vulnerability. Like as a leader, I also have my vulnerability. Share that, make them feel that it's safe and comfortable, that even the leader are shared publicly. And that will give the people the sense of, wow, supportive, and they feel safe and they feel that this is a place that they could excel in. And therefore, I feel that this could be one of the ways that we could retain a female talent.
Wow. So I can feel your heart and also the love for your employees and for your organization. You cover a lot of nuggets of wisdom, like we need to create a safe environment for employees, and managers need to check in to make sure everything is okay, to show their care, and then provide training. We also need to have mentoring so that everybody will be inclusive, to establish the women's a forum to share their interests, and also to enhance their self-worth. And also we need to have the family policy in place, showing the parenting support and so forth. And most importantly, senior managers, senior leadership have to share their own story, so that the people will think that, oh, they also show their vulnerability, right? So they just feel safe, that this is a very safe environment for them to continue working here. Wow, thank you, Jaisley. Anybody would like to add any comments on this question? Anybody?
Yes, maybe I will.
Yes.
Yeah. I will share about my experience in a previous company, of course, because I joined this company, Pupuk Indonesia, just for 2 months. I have experience in another state-owned enterprise. We make lots of activities, of course, by virtual, yeah, like sport together with family, yeah, like have many kind of the activities include their children, and give the like a webinar about financial planning, mental health, about women health, yeah, and include body mass index program because even not yeah, maybe and we make many kinds of active. We have every day, as every employees have to enter the link in our company and inform about the activities and the condition, health condition. If they mention about the it's in good condition, our doctor will contact the employees, and we follow to proceed about the condition. So not only about how to achieve the target, yeah, but we give more activities because almost 2 years in our company totally work from home, especially in especially in core function like production and supply chain. But in office, 100% work from home. And we can manage that, and still lots of productivity, yeah, because you know, video conference from early morning until late night is my sharing session.
Wow.
Sharing experience.
So, thank you, Tina. So the key is activities. We should have a lot of activities for our employees, including the children, right? So activities include the financial planning, and all. You also require each of the employees to enter the link, to click on the link to declare their health condition. I think it's very good, right? Because we need to provide a very safe environment to all our employees. So this is a very good ad for a responsible employer. Thank you very much for sharing. And of course, you also have to take into account the productivity of the employees. Thank you very much for the sharing. So let's move on to question 2. Okay. Question 2 is breaking bias. How can organizations identify and eliminate bias in hiring, rewarding, and promoting women? So here comes Jaisley.
Yes. I told Rita that I got one riddle. So can you feel free to unmute and give me the answer? If you happen to know this riddle, just keep quiet. For those who don't know, please give me answer, all right? So this is the riddle here. Okay. There is a son and a father driving in a car, and they met an accident. So the father died on the spot, and the son is in a critical state. So the ambulance came, picked the sons to the hospital for an emergency surgery. And the doctor came in, supposed to perform the surgery, and saw the patient and say, I can't do this. I can't perform the surgery. He is my son. So who is this doctor? Give me an answer. Unmute, please. For those who have no clue, just name it. Who's the doctor?
The father.
The father. Okay. Who else?
Is it a mother?
Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? No clue? Okay. Thanks, Ben. You know what? If typically people would think that is male, like their father or their stepfather or their grandfather or whatever father. So this is called unbiased consciousness, and this is also linked to the profession, because in our mind we always think that if we say, oh, my child is a pilot, my kid is a pilot, the first thing is, oh, your son. Or you say that, oh, I have an engineer's expert in my home. Then you say, oh, that's your son. So this is called professionals' unbiased consciousness. So the moral of the story here is, I think in business or many people in the society, I think we are so used to professions that tie to positions. And today is so nicely needed that how do we break the bias in the organizations? I know that many companies are hiring, like it can be engineer or technicians or pilot. And when we say kindergarten teacher, the first thing came into mind is female, right? Hardly we think that it's male dominated job. And so I think to help an organizations or to eliminate the bias in hiring, I have a few suggestions here. Like for example, when it came to hiring, I think firstly is to educate the hiring managers, like particularly on the job descriptions. You know, like some of the job descriptions, they have more masculine words, like you need to be strong, you need to be competitive, you need to be expert. And according to Glassdoor, these are considered like very masculine words. And I read from the Harvard Business Review. It says that the masculine words will result in women perceive that they are not able to do the work or they are not belong to the environment. So therefore, it is advised that you use more neutral language such as collaborations or collaborative or corporations. So other than that, if during the hiring, what we can do is also use a skill-based assessment or structured interview when we do recruiting. So it's to also to reduce the risk of unfair bias, and also can impose some standardized interview or skill-based assessments. All this can help to address the issues. And apart from that, perhaps we may also get the recruiter to make a longer shortlisting, so that to ensure that there is a certain ratio of female applicants is included in the shortlisting process. Just now the question is also mentioned about compensations. I think compensations, what we can do is also to use value-based or value-based work compensations. And essentially is to create values or outcome-based compensation or rewards policy where employees is measured based on the outcome or the output. And the values is also mean that it should be embedded in the compensations philosophy and also reflected in the pay decision. An employer can, of course, like promote gender equality in the workplace by being transparent about the compensations to ensure that women are not receiving less than men in the equivalence role. And other than that, I think the earlier questions I did mention, having mentor for women, right? How about we should have women mentor the men, right? That is the self-worth and the self-values, and that's women will feel that they are more they're more at the nurturing state, and this is where it will help to improve gender equalities in workplace by having men to understand women's perceptions, women's view, and this can help to break the barriers and progress for their career. But of course, it is more significant, right? Be it just benefit the woman for their ego or for the men to feel that, oh, okay, this is how I can work better with women. And I think with all this, it will allow people to learn from each other and learn from a different skill set and learn what is the different leadership style, so that it is not just benefiting the female women, but also the economy, because the decision maker out there may not just a man, it could be a female, so that the company would appreciate that better, that women's voice is important in striving for the organization's strategies. Yeah, thank you.
Wow. Again, Jaisley, a lot of insights for us. You mentioned about this, you started with with sort of riddle, right? Bringing out this professional unbiased consciousness. Wow, very powerful message. And then you talk about in recruitment, we need to educate the hiring manager, and we should use more skill-based assessment, standardize the interview, and also having a longer shortlisting arrangement and so forth. Right? Thank you very much for rewarding. You remind us that we should use value-based work with reference to their output, but not to other things. And also need to have a very transparent rewarding system. You came up with a very good idea of women mentoring men, right? So that we would uplift our self-worth, and basically we are inclusive and we learn from each other. Thank you very much. So who else would like to add a few more points? Who else would like, Fiona, would like to add on?
I can go, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think to address the point on mentoring, having an E system is actually good as well, because it presents to them a pool of mentors whom the female potentials or female employees can actually have a free choice to pick, and then they can do chemistry meeting, because we all know that trust is so important in the mentoring relationship, of whom they feel comfortable with to engage into a mentoring session. The other bit that I wanted to add on is I think organizations can have very clear policy on discrimination, human rights, strong governance pillar around this escalation process, as well as incident reporting to report on inappropriate behaviors. So that actually that pillar is a very strong and reducing or mitigating the risk factor when it comes to governing the environment for our female to have a safer place to work as well. Future of work, and I think Jaisley did mention about flexible work schedules, and I think the gist of it is really to tackle the mindset of our managers. Assessment on performance based on delivery and achievement rather than time spent in office. And I can't help but to emphasize trust is so important, and consistency is key, right? And genuineness is actually the fuel to fuel this consistency to go on to build on that trust. And I think the last aspect I want to mention is about the development piece, whereby I think many of the females, they sometimes don't dare to dream, and they don't know what they want. So it's important that we start having platforms or trainings to tackle their inner reflection self, to see where they are in terms of their career orientation, where they are, what are their strengths, what are their areas where they enjoy doing, what are the possible dreams that's out there for them, because we want to ignite that passion so that they can continue to pursue their dream. And being amongst community is great, because that can actually boost them along and cheer for them, and giving good tips on how they can overcome some of these hurdles. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, Fiona. A lot of nuggets. You mentioned about this e-system for the mentoring, right? So that they can make their free choices, and also clear policy on discrimination reporting, which is very important. And you also mentioned about the future of work, how to make the flexible schedule, and also you echo what Jaisley mentioned, that we should assess their performance in terms of their delivery, but not their time that they spend on their work. And I think trust, and lastly will be for women, don't dare to dream, and we should create sort of a platform or training for them to have their inner reflection, so that they are clear on what their area of strength is and their career aspiration, and even have a community, create a community to ignite their inside strength, and so that they will work towards their dream. Very powerful messages, and also sharing. Thank you, Fiona. So next, let's move on to the next question. Okay, so let me see. The next one is the state of the corporate pipeline. Getting more women in C-suite is still a challenge. How can we promote more women in leadership roles and bridge the gap? This time we have a gentleman who would like to speak first. So
Hi.
let us have Ben. Yeah, Ben, thank you.
Thank you, Rita, for your question. In order to tackle this challenge, I will, in my opinion, suggest to create an environment. Maybe we can have 5 key elements. Start with the woman, W-O-M-A-N, the keywords. W stand for will, O stand for opportunity, M stand for motivate, A stand for action, and last is N stand for network. So will means that whoever, like no matter is a female or a male, they will have a will in terms of the career development enhancement. So we can respect and give the opportunity, the O, to them so that they can pursue. So give an example from my existing company, Sun Life Asia. We have 6 markets, Singapore, Hong Kong, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Including regional, we have 7 units. 3 out of 7, the CEO actually are female. So nearly half of them, right? So it's one of the key message I can learn from my existing company. In terms of motivate, I think it's another key element that we can provide different opportunity to motivate no matter female or male to pursue their career goal. In terms of action, I think one of the key things is the top management, how they show the commitment to the world. So like Sun Life, I know that in corporate, we have defined our 2025 commitments in terms of DE&I. One of the key, I just checked our website, KPI, which is 50% commitment in terms of the percentage of the VP plus roles globally at Sun Life. So we have this kind of commitment to show our commitment and action. And last is about network. I observed that here we have some kind of a community set up. We call this a Bright Woman community, which is we leverage the Facebook networking enterprise version so that we can collaborate between all the people they concern about the interests of a woman club, something like that. So I think based on this WOMAN environment, we can have this kind of platform to promote more women in the leadership role. I think this is something I can share with you. Thank you.
Wow. And we must remember your acronym, women, WOMEN, will, opportunities, motivation, action, and network. I think it can show the determination of your company in particular on giving women more opportunities for them to grow their career, and especially about the KPI, right? 50% of them women would be for those who are on the VP position, right? So 50% of them for women. Wow, that is a very strong message. And lastly, also the action would be the network to create community so that they can celebrate each other for this kind of common interest on supporting women and so forth. Wow, very, very, very strong message, especially from your company. Right? And also everybody can remember that, women. So who else would like to add on this question? Who else?
Yeah, can I mention?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
In state-owned enterprise, all company have a KPI target mandatory 15% for BOD-1, one down of BOD. Of course, we cascade until BOD-3. We have a target too about the how many women have to join in shortlist candidates. Long list become a shortlist. And we have a program. Of course, we have program for leadership program, but we cannot make a exclusive program for women. Of course, the women don't want to get something like that too. Yeah, so we still have inclusive program, same program for women and male and female candidates. But in performance management review, we measure not only about performance, but of course about their competencies, learning agility, and about the values, because we have similar values for all state-owned enterprise. So based on that, we can have a development program, especially leadership development program, more accurate. Yeah, and we have like a standardized leadership program for all ESOEs. We now have a assessment center program. We have a similar standardized what kind of the competencies we have already we have to fulfill. Yeah, so all company will follow that regulation, will follow that standard, and how we develop in the same way. I hope, and now we still make the program, the system better and better.
Thank you, Tina, for sharing. Especially, I love to know that 50% of POD -1 are women, which is the KPI of your company. Wow. Yeah. And also you have from a short list, very inclusive. I think it's very good inclusive policy to promote women in the organization. You also mentioned a few programs, right? Such as leadership program, which is inclusive of female and male candidates, and also the development program, setting some standards so that everybody would be assessed on the same conditions. Yes. And of course, we also have this kind of another programs showing that for women to show their potential, and also their learning agility and values. Wow, I love your company. So many of these different type of programs.
And can you imagine? They are the own state. They are the own state company, so it belongs to our country. So you see how lovely now. It's different in the past because my dad was working on the own state. So I understand the situation now is really a big improvement for us women, especially.
Wow, thank you, Rani, for adding this. Wonderful comments. So especially countries like Indonesia, state-owned companies, and they have this kind of inclusive program. I think, Tina, you must have put a lot of effort into this area. Of course. Thank you very much. Thank you very much on behalf of the women, especially in Indonesia. Salute to you. Thank you. So who else would like to add comments or input on this, about this question? Any input to this question?
Maybe I can add one more point to what already has been shared as great sharing here, is that also address the feeder pool. So sometimes when we define C-suite is a certain level, but don't neglect the pool that's feeding into this pool, the rising stars that's getting into this pool, because we all know that it's a journey. So we need to start early to start preparing them to get ready for that pool. So never neglect the feeder pool as well.
Wow, thank you, Fiona. Yeah, rising star, right? So don't forget the feeder pool. Thank you very much for the strong message. Who else would like to add? Jaisley, although you have done with 1 or 2 questions, anything you want to add about this question, Jaisley?
They cover what I wanted to say, like most of the things, even what my company is doing for the D&I, we also set KPI. Actually, but our D&I is more than just female, but including people who are like sportsmen, or even people who are disabled. Like in the past, in HR department, we have one lady which is visually impaired. So the girls are sitting in a recruitment team doing hiring. So the inclusion, the diversity, diversity and inclusions beyond just about females, but beyond like even people who are disabled or people who are in a different needs. We also explore the kind of opportunity for them, and even setting KPI at the senior leaderships level, where by 2025 the numbers or percentage of different permutations group should be included.
Wow, the great company. I'm so glad to hear that another company has set KPI for this 20-25 percentage for women who would be a leader in their company, and also they also consider opportunities for those who are disabled. Right, I think it's really great. It's a very strong message to send across to other organizations that this is something they should consider and also follow. Thank you very much. So let's move on to the last one. For the last one, I would like everybody to give their input. Then after the last one, if we still have time, I would like everybody just to give us one piece of advice about this topic of the day. Okay, then after that, we will close the session because we still have 20 minutes. Okay, so let's start with the question number 4. The road to progress. What are your DE&I goals? And how can we make our DE&I initiatives measurable to create maximum impact? So we start with a gentleman. Ben.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Rita. So I think I mentioned before that most of the company, if we can define this journey with some figures, I think it's more easy for measure and monitor the progress. Again, I just review our company, Sun Life Global. I think we are in a progress. Like, for example, I mentioned before, as of last year, I think 35% of our VP plus employee globally already identified as women. And then we invest 2.2 million Canadian dollar for this DE&I initiative. And also 94% of our employees support this diversity in the workplace, and so on and so on. And last is about 41.6% of our board of directors identify as women. So with this kind of clear figures, and so that we can have a more clear picture where we are now in terms of the progress. I think this is one of the way we can monitor the progress and give the transparency, not only internally, but also to the public, that how Sun Life we treat this equality very important and serious. I think this is my sharing. Thank you.
Wow, Ben, you are a strong advocate of Sun Life. Huh? You share with us figures to measure how supportive your company is on this DE&I, such as last year's 35% of VP plus are women, and your company has invested 2 million Canadian dollars into this initiative, and also 94% employees are in support of this company direction. Wow, Sun Life. Huh? So it's a company that we can consider advocates of DE&I. Okay, so who is the next? Who would like to be the next? Maybe we will have
let me try to
Rennie, Rennie, yes.
So when we are talking about the DE&I, I think something that become an a plus point for me because I'm a woman. So like I go with my career starting because I got the opportunity from a woman also. My first boss was a lady. It's very like a very strong leadership, and sometimes I can see that there is a masculinity on her. That's I think I copied that when I grew up as a leader also. So naturally, I think as a woman leader, we will definitely give the opportunity for another woman also, right? So as a leader, I believe that sometimes when you're talking about the goals, my biggest homework, especially for me, is how I can work closely with men. Because most of the time, my team is always women, because I want to give them the opportunity to grow similar with men outside. That's why I think it's a bit like a selfish on my side, because I have that under my mind that, hey, I need to built a lot of strong women after me. But in this, in Indonesia especially, we realize that we came from a very huge culture difference, right? So the culture diversity is something that we really need to work on. While we already have it with us since the beginning, we have Indonesia in a way, because thousands of different, type of background, and then even the island is also, we have thousands of it. So that's something that I think we can highlight it as part of the, the goal, because as in here, especially in a big cities like Jakarta, maybe like only certain people came from outside of Jakarta. Well, we have thousands of people who would love to learn and grow together with us in terms of, a team in the family and the positive environment. So I think if we are talking about what can we make sure that our initiative will be create the maximum impact in the future, some things that us in Indonesia need to really highlight it is how we reduce the different of culture of us, of the race and everything, and we highlight that as the strength. So as a leader, the most important thing is how to make sure that there is no unconscious bias in the workplace, and then how we can support the gender identity and expression. So we give the same opportunity to everyone, and then how we really focus on make sure that our team has a very diverse in terms of the culture background, and remove the stereotype. Because sometimes, even like myself, I still sometimes struggling with the stereotypes that, hey, women can do better than men. Sorry, Ben, that didn't mean to against you on that, but I think that I still need more experience and also knowledge on how I can lead men on my team. I think something that I can share, Rita.
Wow, thank you, Rennie. You have shared a lot with us. Like you shared with us the your first boss, right? Your first boss being a lady is really your role model for you to follow, and we should give more opportunities to women, and also you like working closely with men. I think it's because of in the human resources world, right? In particular, we have a lot of women working.
Yes,
so in order to embrace all gender, so we also love working with closely with men, and also we need to work. I think for Indonesia, right, for the next 3 years to reduce the gap from sort of to be more inclusive, and we should make sure that we should have no unconscious bias. We should have more gender identity, and then for team we should promote this kind of diversity culture and so forth. Thank you very much for the sharing. Thank you, Randy. And who else? Maybe we have Fiona. You'd like to share?
I do. Thanks, Rita. So the road to success for DEI initiative, making it measurable and impactful. I think I'm very honored to be with DHL Express, being the world's most international company, as well as, we are also advocating being a great place to work for all, right? Although we do have programs targeted at the awareness of being an inclusive and diverse place with the DHL for Her program, but everyone, people, is the center of everything we do, so everyone is valuable. So with regards to the woman, sort of increasing the woman percentage in C-suite, in specific, how to make it measurable. I think as with all other DEI initiatives, firstly, we have to create visibility of the current state of where we are, right? Looking at the disparity about, with all the segments that we can think of, functions, grades, transparency is very much needed with the organization to know where we stand today, and driving the agenda from the top with very clear action plan and targets, as well as milestones leading to that final goal is critical. And along the way, track and report progression, holding the team accountable for moving the needle. for whatever, be it gender diversity or other segments of diversity that we're talking about. And milestone checks are also important, where we then have conversations, frequent conversations, right? Following through on the difficulties, the challenges on the ground, and what can they do better? What support do they need to help remove these barriers? And I think with these few pointers in check, right, with all the matrices and dashboards that we have these days, we will sure be able to have a very successful and measurable DEI initiatives being tracked. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. I love your idea that we should know where we are before we know what we want to be. So you should have some, we need to be transparent on where we are, like, and also we should have some measurements for us to know, to measure our milestones and target and so forth, right? You talk about a record and then holding the team accountable, right? And also frequent conversation, and also be supportive, and all these are the great ideas. Thank you, Fiona. So who would like to share on this question? Jaisley, I'd like to share, you add a bit more great ideas from our previous speakers.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I think in summary, what I gathered here is what's get measured gets done, right? So if we don't, like just like I said, it is unconscious bias, because if we don't put something in place, it will just slip off. Because it's very simple. Like many a time, the hiring manager will just say, "Oh no, there's no female candidate, so it's not my fault." But it's an unconscious thing that we didn't do it consciously to even put a step back to reflect whether or not is our job descriptions biased, right? So that is one of the steps that we should be reflected upon. And other than that is a training and awareness. Like, yes, you can advocate for a change, a very nice policy or KPI, but you don't train the people, they don't understand. Like, they don't even understand how to differentiate the masculine language and non-masculine language. And the training is also to get the leaders or the people to be more inclusive, to accept differences. I think we all know that it's very common, like, a tribe meaning like they always have drinking kaki, right? So the drinking kaki is what, then we heard about drinking kaki is male dominated. So the kind of community itself, it is informal, but require awareness, or probably certain kind of training or certain time of advocating. Like in many forums or in many situations or in many employee communication should be included as part of the agenda, so that it's constantly reinforced and let people know that here it is, so that people won't make it as a book where, yes, it's measured, end of the year, then you scramble to see, oh, where am I in today's state? Yes, I know where I was started and where in the end state, but the whole journey itself need to put in some initiative, awareness, and reinforcement, so that it will be much more trackable to the end state. So that's what I thought.
Oh, thank you. I love your statement. What gets measured gets done, right? So we need to, and also you mentioned about the importance of creating awareness and also training, so that our staff, our company culture will be more inclusive. Thank you, Jaisley. And then Tina, would you like to share something?
Okay, thank you. If the question how the initiative to measure, to create maximum impact, I think we have to put as a KPI. If not, we cannot guarantee. We cannot guarantee or an entity will have a commitment for that. So maybe about the inclusivity, based on my experience, is already defined, like based on the how we develop the people, career or competency or capability, but how to create ecosystem, how to create psychological safety for women to feel more comfort in their workplace, and how to enhance the respectful workplace for women. Maybe it's more qualitative, yeah. How to measure if we indicate based on the how many report come from whistleblower system, something like that, yeah. Maybe it's not real because some of women don't have enough willingness or not brave, have a brave yet to report, even they are become a victim. Yeah, so if we calculate based on the whistleblower system numbers, how many times, I think it's not real, like iceberg, yeah, maybe. So in that area, like harassment and discrimination, maybe we still have a strong effort for that. But maybe for fairness in career and development is easier to create measurement. This based on my experience, yeah, until now. Maybe we still have lots of effort for harassment and discrimination. So why like advocate for women still need in the company?
Wow, thank you. As Ben mentioned, if you a will, right? If we are will with a way, although we still have a lot of things to done about discrimination and harassment, but believe that if you have a determination to make it work, you will make it one day. So thank you, Tina. Seeing that KPI is a guarantee, and also understand that your organization has the whistleblowing policy, right? Which really help for those who are a little bit timid in sharing with others about their happenings. With this policy really helps. So last but not least, we still have I think 5 minutes, right? And Oshia, we still have 5 minutes. Am I correct?
In fact, more than 5 minutes. We have 7 minutes right now.
Okay, 7 minutes. So I would love every one of you to share with me one takeaway for the session today. Okay, so who would like to start?
Let me start first.
Yeah, Rani, yes.
So I think something that I really want to put it as a highlight, that now we are in a leadership position. We can use it to be the power that embedded to us to make the difference. So how we want to do it, of course, we know better than everyone else. Like what Jesli told us, like how we need to start the initiative, and then Tina also mentioned how we are like we need to do like the first step, and we need to really be motivated internally in our heart that we do this not only for us, not for our benefit, but for the rest of the community. Because at the end of the day, this world contains with male and female. I think something that I got from the conversation.
Thank you. Be the power embedded to make a difference. Wow, I can feel your power, Randy, within yourself. Okay, thank you. Next is Tina.
Yeah, women, female and male is we have to collaborate. Yeah, how to work together, not compete each other. I think so. He foresee women for women, yeah, and better for the company, yeah. So we need like role model in high level, so the rest of the employees will show real action, so they will imitate, I think, yeah, rather than just symbolize like yeah, better in behavior. We can observe directly and we can feel directly about that. So no competition between female and male. We work together for better company, better country, better community.
Wow, thank you, Tina. Right, a powerful message. men and women should not compete with each other. We should collaborate and work together to make everything better. Thank you, Tina. So next is Fiona.
I have many great takeaways. I think all the techniques and tips being shared. One thing I would like to, I echo what Rennie is saying as well. Each of us is a change agent. Now that we have heard so much about what can be done, it's important that we do our part, sharing and keep talking about it, you know. And it's important to actually have this mindset. We are all human, we are all people. Be understanding, be kind to each other, and goes a long way, because we all work, you know, for whatever reason. But as long as our family is settled, I think one can have the peace of mind to front the external world. So let's make whichever, you know, environment that we are in a better place to be in, so that we can give our full best to the organization for the work that's going to be done.
Wow, thank you, Fiona. Give our full best, and every one of us is a change agent. Very good message, very strong message. And we still have 2 minutes, so I can only 1 minute for each. Jaisley.
Okay. I hear a lot about collaborations and coexistence. I think that is no doubt is very important. I do a call for it, but I do want to re-emphasize that I think International Women's Day is a day that for us to raise awareness and affirmations to the people around the world that women play a significant role, not just at home. And they goes beyond just at home, but society at large, and even economical, culturally, political, which is no less than men. And today it serves as a reminder to all the women that the women out there are shining a spotlight on many inspirationals or motivations or supportive story to encourage more women or young girls out there to see the possibilities that it is possible, and there is a trailblaze for them to take a step into a greatness.
Wow, another very strong message. Women play a significant role in all aspects. Reminder to women that we need to send out a lot of more inspirational and encouragement to the other people, right? In order to strengthen ourselves and telling the people that women actually is now very significant, playing a significant role. Thank you, Jaisley. Last but not least, our gentleman Ben.
Yeah, as a father of 2 kids, I got 1 son and 1 daughter. I always share my view to them that instead of only masculine, feminine, what we better to learn about the Chinese culture, yin yang. If you remember the yin yang, within the white we have a dot black, within the black we have 1 dot white. So I always explain that you should, as a holistic person, you need to master, handle both masculine and feminine at the same time to be a holistic person. I think this is my wrap up. Thank you.
Wow, Chinese culture, yin yang, right? So we need to be inclusive and embrace both sides of it so that we can be a holistic person. Very strong message. So anything we'd like to add on? Because I think we still have less than 1 minute.
Would like to say that I'm enjoying the conversation. Thank you so much for everyone. This is a very nice discussion. A lot of enlightenment also for me.
Yeah, I also think a lot of nuggets of wisdom from the leaders today, no matter they are from male or female, no matter they are from human resources or like Ben, who is from long human resources discipline, right? A lot of great sharings from different perspectives, and also a lot of best practices from different organizations and also from different countries. So let's leave the breakout room and we'll back to the main room so that Rennie, you are kind enough to do the summary for us, my dear. Okay, let's leave the room now.
And welcome back all of you to the main screen. And I hope you all had a great discussion. And personally, I learned a lot in my discussion that was led by Rita. And so now we are eagerly waiting to listen to some of the actionable insights from each group. So maybe first I invite Rani, who was part of Rita's group, and she will share some key takeaways from the group.
I don't see Rani on the screen.
Rani?
Rani couldn't join us back, is it?
Yeah, maybe we have to wait for her for a minute. And because we do have a few minutes left, so I asked okay, she'll jump back. She just has some internet issue. So for our team, we also have the bonus for everyone here. Each of our team member did share with us one takeaway for all of us to bring home today. So I'm so glad that we have additional bonus from the team from the team today. So maybe we should, can we have Yasmin's team first?
No, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll go ahead first. So I think we had an amazing discussion. We had Dia in our team, Musharraf, Vince, we had Helen, we had Avni, we had Noor Hamija, and we had Helen in the team. And some great discussion points. We covered all the 4 discussion pointers that we had to cover. And what came across was that firstly, yes, women are more burned out. So how do we make it better for them? It's about creating flexible working opportunities, creating those opportunities and, processes around them for them to be able to balance work and personal life. It is about that mindset change. We have to review our processes and policies and see that how do we make it better for women going forward. If you can give them better work hours, if you can give them more opportunities to work from home, if you could create more spaces in the organization itself for them to become better, I think that's how we can reduce their workload, reduce their, make them more productive and create that balance in their life. So that was the first point, and all our leaders agreed to that. The second most important one obviously was about breaking the bias, and we spoke a lot about that. And it all stems from the fact that you need to first introduce what bias is. It is not easy to remove. It is inherent in most of us. So how do we do that? In order to do that, we need to emphasize the culture of the organization. What behaviors do we expect for our employees? We also need to honor the cultures that our employees have been brought up in. We need to communicate continuously with our employees about our culture. We need to recalibrate processes and policies according to that. And obviously, we need to celebrate diversity. We need to celebrate inclusion in order for people to feel it and embed it into their own selves. And also it is all, as someone in the group very rightly pointed out, we have to make a conscious effort to curb the unconscious bias. And yes, it all starts from setting the tone from the top, be it the government, be it the top CEO of the company, the top leadership. Once you have it there, when the tone gets set from the top, it kind of cascades down to everybody. So that was about breaking the bias. Then we moved on to our next topic, which was about the entire challenge of having more women in the leadership positions. And it was very nicely pointed out that it's not about making it just a goal. It has to be an intent. It has to be intentional. It has to be an aspiration for organizations to have more women in leadership. You can't be a tick in the box for them. It should be measurable, tangible. It should be overall part of the performance cycle to hire more women. And if we try and bring more women in the middle levels, and then we help them, empower them, enable them to grow, I think that's how we build the pipeline for more leaders in the C-suite. And obviously, as our leaders very rightly said, having more women in the organization and in leadership positions makes more business sense. So it should be included in the business plan. And finally, coming to the road to progress, and where we spoke about how can we make our DEI goals more impactful, more measurable. I think everybody agreed that we have to include it in the KPI of leaders, as we said earlier also, so that it cascades down. If leaders are serious about their DEI goals, it will automatically fall through for the rest of the organization. We have to create those equal opportunities. We have to make them clear. We have to have transparent communication. And we also have to make sure our goals for DEI are clear for everybody in the organization. So yes, it's about giving people those opportunities, seeing the magic that comes through once you do that, and obviously create an employee. And how do you measure the impact? I think it's all about employee experience, how your employees are reacting to you, what they feel about you as an organization, be it from the hire to the retire stage. The entire life cycle of an employee is where you'll get to see how they are feeling, what kind of impact you are having through your DEI initiatives. And yes, we have to break our targets into actual actions, and it's time to do that. So I would like to thank all the leaders who joined us in our group. Some great discussions, so much to learn from all of you. So over to you, Rita. Thank you.
Thank you. Here comes my buddy, Rani.
Sorry, I got problem with my internet connection. Well,
yeah.
I think that's the #1 problem in the world right now, right? Yes. So should I share the details? Okay, let me share from what we had on the previous discussion in our group. So basically, on the first topic, the discussion was about how to, taking care about the situation that we can help them not facing the burnout, and then how we can support each other, support the women especially. So from the discussion, something that I put as a highlight is that us as a leader need to do something about it. We need to be also very honest when we are facing the situation, because I believe that the burning and then the burnout, the health issue and everything is not only happens to our team, but also to ourselves. It is okay to be as human as possible, to show that the situation is also hit us, and how we can support the team, how we can support everyone to conquer the situation. And in a company perspective, what we can do is we need to set the limit, because burnout sometimes because of our habit. I think everyone is also facing like non-stop call since early in the morning until late at night. We as a leader can help on changing that habit and that situation. And then as a leader, we also need to be more empathic. We have the empathetic attitude, and able to catch up the signals if there is a potentially burnout situation on our colleagues, and also initiate a lot of activity, especially the virtual one. So we are not only taking care about our team, but also their family. Let's say for some example that was shared before, from Tina, that how we give them, feeding them with a lot of information, doing the activity like a family sport, and then giving them the information about mental health, woman health, and then guidance on a healthy lifestyle and financial planning. I think that some of the summary from the first discussion about the first topic, which include also in there how we create a program that supports the life balance, the mentoring program, and also coaching and training programming inside of it. And then regarding the second topic about breaking bias, the information is more about how we can educate when we do the hiring, when we can educate our hiring manager to use more not a bias words when they do the posting on the job post, and do the skill-based assessment. And also from the compensation part, we need to focus on how we do the value-based compensation and reward based on the outcome, and embedded it by the policy and also the mentoring, and how we set up a clear policy that represent the human rights, and we create the trust and consistency to minimize the discrimination. And also thinking about the future world, we need to give more opportunities, because what we shared, there is a lot of women also that they don't really encourage themselves. So they don't have the their thinking. Sometimes they feel about that they are not able to fight, they are not able to show that they are the best one. So we can create the future world needs to be more and more supporting on that part. So we need to also remind the women that, hey, don't be afraid to dream, and let's develop ourselves to be the best, the better person that they want to be in the future. And then for the third discussion, I think something that really I want to highlight is came from Ben, that mentioning that women, it came from willingness, opportunity, motivation, action, and network. That's something that we can remind ourselves and remind the women on our team about how to support each other to go to the right direction of their career. And also as a leader, some of the examples that we are talking is how we create the group support, and also setting up to put more women leaders on the organization. We need to set up the KPI. For what Tina's mentioned, like on her, that in the own state company, they set up the 15% that the DOD -1, and then cascading it to the below level. So this is also showing that there is a powerful message that we are open to help the women to grow in their career. And then the third one is the about the DE&I initiative. So this is some of that I think was very interesting on the discussion, because a lot of we are agree on giving the best, how we want to improve ourselves, right? And how we can do the maximum impact. So as a leader, we need to really focus on breaking the unconsciousness bias, and then how we highlight the culture diversity, and then we make sure to remove the stereotypes, and then how we transparent about the steps that we have right now and what we want to do. We need to have the action plan and open the conversation channel to all the people. And also we need to create the awareness, which means including understanding the current progress and what we need to do next, which including on it is setting up the KPI, as we mentioned before. I think that's some of the summary of the very nice discussion that we had before. Rita, should I also share the takeaways, or you want to share it? Okay, let me share also some takeaways that we talking on the last of the conversation. So first is be the power and embed it to make difference to build the community, and then women and male are partners and work together, not competition that we had. And we are the changing agent. And also, we be understanding and support each other to create the better world, because women can create significant change to the world. And the last note also that I was captured before I lost my signal is from Ben, that mentioning that yin yang. That's I think everyone knows that this is something that really strong in the Chinese beliefs, right? And I do also understand that quite strong, that if we can mastering the concept, not become, like a female, and then, just with only one side, but we try to mastering this concept, then we can be better in every single way that we want to be included in this work. That's all, Yasmin.
Thank you, Rennie and Yasmin, for wonderfully conceptualizing and summarizing every, all great insights from the breakout room. I personally learned a lot, and I feel that all of you, for all of you, the session was as beneficial as we wanted it to be, and it will help us go back to our meetings and sharpen our DE&I strategy. So before we close this session, I would like to invite both Rita and Yasmin to share some closing words, and then we'll conclude the session.
Thank you so much, Anushri. And yes, thank you, Rani, for really summarizing it well. So much to learn from each one of the leaders to join. I'm personally so thankful to you for joining us, for bringing so many different perspectives and being so passionate about DEI. I think that's what is needed, not just as women, as all the men in the forum also. If you're passionate about it, if you're here to lead from the front, we will bring the change. We will eventually create more equitable workplaces, not only for women, I think for the entire diversity that we are looking forward to, every community, every kind of differences that they are. We have to kill those unconscious biases and have beautiful, fair and transparent organizations going forward. So thank you everyone for joining us. It has been a true pleasure. So over to you, Rita.
Thank you. I got a lot nuggets of wisdom from different leaders today. And I urge that for those participants, I'm sure that this will be broadcast to a lot of HR practitioners, non-practitioners in the world, right? For those who have already practiced these good methods or good policies, just keep on doing it. For those who haven't practiced it, just take them on board and then implement in your organization so that we have a better world, especially for women, because we embrace diversity, equity, and being inclusive, right? So we just be the change agent and just add on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rita and Yasmin, and all the leaders who joined us today. Thank you so much for joining us and share some great insights. And this leads to the conclusion of our session. I wish everyone a very happy Women's Day, and hope that all these insights we discussed today can be actually put into action in the coming days. So thank you so much. Thank you, Rita and Rani, for helping us organize this wonderful, wonderful session. Thank you so much.